Hello, friends. This is the Netarts Friends Church podcast. We are Jesus people, Kingdom of God people, welcoming, yearning, sharing. And we're glad you're connecting here with us. We'd love to connect in person as well. If you're inclined to support this podcast or for more information, just hop on over to netartsfriends.org. That's netartsfriends.org. Let's jump into today's sermon. Hello, friends. Sorry I'm getting this one out a bit late. I had a terrible cold last week, and so I have not been up to recording anything until now, and my voice is still a little bit croaky, so I'm sorry about that. Triangles. Involving a third person as an attempt to try to get that person to take your side in an anxious or a contentious relationship. It happens all the time. A child goes to their parent about their sibling and they say, "He's not sharing, tell him to give me that toy." Or a mom complains to her child about her sister. A manager gripes about the CEO to an employee, or some middle schoolers are whispering one friend to another about that other friend, or a couple grown children are bellyaching about their aging parent. A spouse asks a therapist to tell their partner that they're wrong and that they need to change. A teenager tells one parent that the other parent isn't being nice, they're being mean, they're not letting them go to the movies. Or you get together with a friend and they're venting about something that's going on in their marriage. There are a million different combinations. There are a million different versions of these triangles involving a third person as a way of trying to get someone to take your side. Somehow getting them to influence the situation, somehow affect the outcome. Murray Bowen, the father of family systems theory, says that when any two people are in a stable relationship with one another, they can keep that relationship just between the two of them. But when fear and anxiety increase, then two people almost inevitably involve a third person, because involving a third person decreases the anxiety in the twosome. And so by spreading it through three relationships, it reduces the tension between the two. So whether it's an interpersonal conflict or a legal battle or a systemic issue or a political debate or a theological hubbub, whatever it is, there's often a push to get that third person to choose a side. It's us versus them. It's either or. When you create a triangle, what is it that you're really hoping for? What is going on underneath your attempts to involve that third person? Are you feeling unheard? Are you feeling alone? Are you seeking someone to validate where you're coming from? Are you feeling powerless, like you just need to have someone on your team? Are you already in battle mode and you don't want to be a good listener, you're just looking for someone to invalidate that other person? Is there something deeper under the conflict that's vulnerable? You're trying to avoid it by appealing to a third party. It would take some pretty delicate work to really have to dig into your history and a whole lot of vulnerable material. And so it's just easier to offload all of that work and let someone else decide who's right, who wins, and that's fine as long as they side with you. So a discussion or a reflection question that we talked about on Sunday: creating triangles involving a third person is something we humans do. So come up with a list. We did this in groups. Come up with a list of scenarios where we humans create triangles. And then what you're asking is, underneath that triangle, what are we seeking? What are we really looking for? So take a moment and reflect on that. All right. This brings us to our gospel story. We're continuing in the Gospel of Luke. Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" And then Jesus said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." And then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to my soul, or myself, self or soul, you have many good things laid up, enough for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, enjoy yourself merrily." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night they will demand your soul of you, and all the things that you've prepared, whose will they be?" And Jesus concludes the parable by saying, "This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." Now, going back to the first scenario there, can you see the triangle? Can you see the way that the younger brother was trying to pull Jesus into a triangle with him and his oldest brother and tell his oldest brother what to do? The younger brother, whichever one you want to choose there in that image, the younger brother was grieving. His father had just died. His world had been turned upside down. In ancient Palestine, when a father died without a written or an oral will, oftentimes the whole estate went completely to the eldest brother. Now, if the father had written a will, normally a double portion of the inheritance went to the oldest brother, but not the entire estate. But if dad died without writing a will, chances were good the eldest brother would get the whole farm, the whole family business. The younger brother or brothers wouldn't get anything unless the older brother agreed to divide the estate. And that just goes along with the way that wealth was earned most often in the ancient world. It was more so inherited than it was earned. So the younger brother, he may have spent every year of his life pouring his blood, sweat, and tears into the family business, and the family business may stand as his income, his career, his security, his status in the community, the roof over his head. But in one fell swoop, with his dad's death, he stood to lose everything. And so here he is, he's begging Jesus to take a side. Tell my brother what to do. And it's a legitimate request. It's a valid request. It feels very unfair for the younger brother to spend his entire life working for the family business and then lose it all just like that because he wasn't the firstborn. Jesus just finished talking with the Pharisees about justice and injustice, and it really feels like Jesus should take a side. He should set the injustice of the inheritance system straight. He should tell the older brother what to do. Can you relate to that feeling? Is there any person, is there any situation, any issue in your life that you would say, I have a legitimate request, I have a valid request, and I just wish someone would swoop in and tell that other person what to do? Jesus, the judge of all human history, says to this man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you two? What is Jesus doing? Why doesn't he take a side? Well, Jesus was de-triangling. To de-triangle is to be a calm, non-anxious presence that stays in contact with both people and telling them, I know the two of you can solve this. And now the fear and the anxiety shifts back to them. They have to face the anxiety and fear between them. They have to take responsibility. The thing about many conflicts is that they're often about something deeper than the subject that's being disputed. It's questions of, am I worthy? Do you love me? Have I worked through my past wounds and healed? Have you worked through past wounds and healed? Am I safe? Am I out of control? Am I seen? Am I known? Is there room for me to be me? Perhaps now that dad's dead, I feel afraid. I feel alone. This inheritance dispute, it was only a symptom of a deeper illness within the relationship, and it was infecting both brothers. Jesus saw that even if he did tell the older brother what to do, there would still be something broken in the relationship. And so Jesus invited this man, the younger brother, to face what was coming between him and his brother and take responsibility for it. Yeah, maybe he lost his father, and maybe he was going to lose his income, his career, his security, his status in the community, the roof over his head, but he hadn't lost his brother if he was willing to lean into that relationship. Instead of worrying about the farm or the estate, could he lean into that relationship with his precious brother? The deeper illness that had infected both brothers and their relationship, it was the way they were trying to solve their pain. It was greed. That's what Jesus put his finger on. This insatiable, always wanting more. And that word greed also means wanting to exceed, wanting to outdo, exploiting others. So it could also be this picture of these brothers always trying to outdo one another. Somehow, the estate had become more important than their relationship with one another. And so Jesus went on to tell this story about what happens when greed is left unchecked. When greed infects relationships, what happens? And so he told this story about this rich man who had a bumper crop, so much surplus, he didn't have a place to store it. What to do? He starts talking and planning and discussing with himself, saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear down my barns. I'll build bigger ones. That's where I'll store my surplus, all of my grain, all of my good things. And then I'll say, self or soul, you have laid up plenty for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. And it really does sound like the American dream. It sounds like good business practice. It sounds like this guy knows how to maximize a profit, like he understands supply and demand. If you have a surplus of grain, but the price is only okay right now, then it only makes sense to store the grain until there's a shortage of grain, and that drives the price up, and then you sell your grain and you make money. And farmers do this all the time. They keep biggering and biggering. So Jesus's rich farmer is the poster boy for business savvy. He's this shrewd entrepreneur. To an audience of Galilean peasants, this rich farmer would appear very different because the history of the world is mostly a history of limited goods. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution and factory production that the economic system could produce more goods than people were actually consuming. And so to Jesus's audience, this guy was not a hero. They would have understood him as a crook. To call this farmer rich wasn't to say how much money he had, it was also to say something about his morality. The early church theologian and historian St. Jerome says every rich person is either unjust or the heir of an unjust person. He is articulating, this is one of the most learned fathers of the time. He's articulating this view that people had. This is what's going on with the wealthy. Only the top 1% of the population in ancient Palestine were wealthy landowners like the guy in Jesus' story, and it was elites like this who were making life so difficult for everyone else. Ancient Galilee was a world of limited goods. And so if the rich man took a huge slice of pie, that automatically meant that other people would get a much smaller slice of pie or no pie, no grain. Someone was going to go without food. And this guy was hoarding grain. In the first century, hoarding surplus was always considered stealing. It was exploitation. So just some tidbits from early church leaders on hoarding. Basil of Caesarea, 4th century bishop, says, "Are you not a robber, you who consider your own that which has been given you solely to distribute to others? This bread which you have set aside is the bread of the hungry. This garment you have locked away is the clothing of the naked. Those shoes which you have let rot are the shoes of him who is barefoot. Those riches you have hoarded are the riches of the poor." Ambrose, 4th century bishop of Milan, says the things that we cannot take with us are not ours. Compassion alone follows us. Augustine says he's talking about the rich man, didn't realize that the bellies of the poor were much safer storerooms than his barns. So we have this rich man, he's having conversations with himself, and in ancient Palestine, even trivial decisions happened only after long conversations with family, friends, community, the entire village, because it was much more of a we culture. It wasn't a me culture. So your business is my business. And so this rich farmer who's bound to have a family, a network of people, he's only talking to himself about what to do with his bumper crop. He's isolating himself. He's making unilateral decisions where the people affected, the people who are going to starve, don't have any say in the matter. And so his greed led to the breakdown of relationships, not having any real love in his life. And he thinks, I'll eat, drink, and be merry. But God says, you fool, this very night they will demand your soul of you. Now, who's they? Some Bible interpreters say that they is God speaking about God's self in the third person. And that's a possibility. It's a reading. I don't want to deny that. But in my opinion, the reading that makes a lot more sense is if they are all the people who have been left out of the conversation about what to do with the surplus grain. They are the village. They're the community, the people whose slice of the pie just got taken away. The rich man made a unilateral decision to cut everyone else out of the conversation. He's only talking to himself. He's making unilateral decisions where those affected have no say. And so this relationship between this rich man and the peasants of the village broke down. It drove people away from one another, and they resort to violence. They demand the soul of this man. They would rather attack him than starve. It's their way of saying, we won't let you exploit us. Now, Jesus wasn't telling a story that endorsed violence. He was simply saying, it's a parable saying this is what happens at the end of the black hole of greed. And the history of the time, first century history, confirms peasant uprisings were a real thing. Like, this is the way things go. Greed leads to a breakdown of relationships and to violence. When you build bigger and bigger barns, you're creating bigger and bigger problems. Whereas if you open the conversation to the community and you build a bigger table for the village, that creates a healthier community. And so Jesus's question, who's going to get all this stuff, the wealth, the surplus? It's not a Robin Hood story. It is not a hero story. It is a tragedy where everyone loses. Where greed infects relationships, violence follows, bloodshed follows, and even in the having, even in those who get the grain, is there any satisfaction? Because instead of being happy about the bread that they have, they are carrying the heaviness of broken relationships. They have blood on their hands. They've become murderers, some of them. How good does it feel to eat bread that you killed someone else to get? So Jesus says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Sean Palmer puts it this way: it will remain like this as long as people have relationships to issues and not relationships with people. The younger brother wanted Jesus to tell his older brother what to do. He wanted Jesus to take a side. He thought the issue was the issue, but Jesus refused to take a side. Jesus pointed deeper at the illness of greed infecting both brothers and infecting their relationship. And in order for the relationship to be healed, the younger brother needed to take responsibility for how greed had infected his heart. Instead of putting all of his energy into changing his brother, trying to acquire the estate, what could he do to lean into that opposite action of generosity? How could he lean into wanting what was best for his brother, celebrating what was best for his brother, be generous towards his brother? Could he buy his brother a housewarming gift? Could he offer to help his brother clean up dad's office? Could he throw a party for his brother to mark this progression in the family business? And all of those possibilities, hearing me mention them might make your skin crawl, because rolling around in the background of this story is another story. It's your story, it's my story. There are people, there are situations where it would feel so good, so right, if Jesus would swoop in and tell them what to do. And all of your wounds, all of your grievances feel legitimate. They feel valid. I'm not questioning them, because it really does feel like the older brother in the situation doesn't deserve a housewarming gift if he's going to take everything away from the younger brother. And yet Jesus says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich towards God. What does that mean, to be rich towards God, when you stand to lose your source of income and status and the roof over your head? Well, the way that Jesus solves that triangle dilemma is by inviting you to be rich towards God. In as much as you've done it to one of the least of these, you've done it unto me. And as much as you've helped your older brother clean out dad's cluttered office, you've done it unto me. Jesus is inviting this younger brother to live the same life that he invites every disciple to live. It's the life that he teaches in the Sermon on the Mount, the Sermon on the Plain. Here it is. To you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you. And if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. And then your reward will be great. You will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Be rich toward God. And so I conclude with just a few questions for you to ask Jesus. Here they are. What is the deeper thing that this conflict, the thing that you've been thinking about, or the thing rolling around in the back of your mind, what is it actually about? And how has that thing infected not only them, that other person or people, how has it infected me? That's the first question. And the second one, if I was the one to start the relational pattern moving in the opposite direction, what would that look like? What would I do? I'm not asking you to answer those on your own. I'm asking you to ask Jesus, what is the answer to these questions? Thank you for joining us for a Sunday sermon from Netart's Friends Church. We hope you'll join us soon for one of our in-person worship gatherings. For more information, hop on over to netartsfriends.org. God's peace be with you, friends.